Good morning. Welcome back to the Retirement Report. I'm Hank Parrott, your host. With me, my good friend and special guest, Dr. Friday with Dr. Friday's Tax and Financial Services over in Brentwood, Tennessee. And she is the tax expert when it comes to individuals and small business owners who have some special concerns. That, this is one of the things with a small business owner. You're paying that self-employment tax, right? You've got not only the 7.6, I believe, or 7.65. Now you've got to you got to do the employer part as well. So you're doubling that, and you're up around 15.3 in total tax. Add that to your tax bracket. So if you're making a pretty good, if you're making decent money, you could be paying 40 to 50% in taxes.
Yeah, if you're making $100,000, you could be paying 40% tax.
Easy stuff, right? So learning how to reduce taxes is so important.
Yeah.
One of the things I mentioned at the beginning of the show about the couple that came in and we're looking at how we can do their tax planning a little different, the way we take money out of the IRAs being a little different. And we can get into all kinds of things on this. One of them is, what I do when I'm doing this type of analysis, I'm looking ahead. What's going to happen when they turn 70 and a half, for instance, and they have to start taking required minimum distributions? How much might their retirement accounts build up to? How much might that amount to? Is it going to push them into a much higher bracket? Do we need to do some planning now?
Right.
So this is an example where, let's say if that would push them up as an example into a 28 or 33% bracket because of the size of the required minimum distributions, even if they didn't need that amount of money to actually live on, it's still going to put them into that kind of a tax bracket. So some things that we might do is we might look at, let's start doing some Roth conversions to reduce that down between now and the time you turn 70 and a half. Even if we're paying 15% tax, let's say, on that,
right,
then that way we've reduced it down. We take less RMD, keep us down in that 15% bracket. We've just, again, effectively cut the tax rate on those required minimum distributions in half. So these are just some of the things that we get into with tax analysis. Okay, we've got a caller we're going to take. Brian, welcome to the Retirement Report. How you doing?
Listen, I've got a question. First of all, my lady friend, can she inherit a pension from her father? I know you can inherit one from your spouse, but you can't inherit a pension like from a power company.
Normally it only goes to the spouse.
Yeah, normally the spouse. There are some exceptions. Now, I'm not sure. You'd have to check with the pension company itself, because the exceptions I've seen were, and it's been some years ago when I got into this, because it's a rare occurrence that we're looking at it. It's where where they did not have a spouse, but they had a child. And as I recall, that was a federal pension or military pension, I believe.
This is a phone company. I don't think she...
Yeah, so unless they allow for that, then, I would say probably not.
So when you have a pension, if you die, your pension dies with you, right?
That's correct.
Now, I've got a 401k, and I know you know Bob and Phil Fickham from Thrivent Financial out there in Fairview. You know those guys?
No.
The Fickham brothers?
No, haven't run into them.
Yeah.
There's a few of you guys
everybody
out there.
wants me to roll from my 401k, and it lost quite a bit of money a little while ago, and I freaked out, and I was going to cash it out, and I was going to take another 30% penalty. But I let it ride, and it's still doing pretty good, but the stock market's doing so well. I'm wondering why my 401k isn't doing as well as the stock market.
Yeah, excellent. Well, first off, the stock market is not doing quite so well, and it's been a very rocky road. If you look at it, I think the S&P is somewhere like 8 or 9 days in a row declining. So we've seen this trickling down effect. It's down below the last. Now, I don't know today whether there's a jobs report coming out or it came out early this morning. I haven't seen what it was. So what the effect's going to be as far as the stock market. But if you look at what's happened in the market up to this point, the Dow's dropped down below 18,000, the S&P down below 2,100. These are kind of some important markers. We have an asset bubble in the stock market. Most experts would agree we're overdue for a bear market. The only thing that's propping up the market right now are the Federal Reserve policies. So if one of the things I'm counseling with my clients is, depending on first off, the portfolios that I utilize with my clients, we've tightened up the volatility considerably. So their likelihood, even if the market goes through a tumble, depending on the equity component in their particular portfolio, they're only going to see maybe a 25 to 50% drop relative to the market. So in other words, if the market were to drop, as let's say as in '08, a big drop like 38%, then their portfolios over that same period were in about the 8 to 20%, again, depending on the equity component. So there are ways that the way you structure your portfolio, your asset allocation will determine how much risk you have. The other things, there's a lot of risk within portfolios that people don't even realize. They think they've got a bond fund as an example that they think is safe, and when we look deeper into it, we see a lot of junk bonds, long duration bonds, and in reality, it's got more risk in the bond fund than in the stock fund, which is the opposite of what we would normally want to have. We want those stocks and bonds to kind of balance each other out. So that's where you've got to, what I would recommend to you is a more thorough investment analysis of what you have, to at least know what the risk is that you're taking, and you're not going to get surprised by a big drop. And see, if you're not keeping up with the market now, that means when the market drops, you're going to probably drop even further. All right, so these are some things to consider with regard to your portfolio. And I'll offer up, for the first 10 callers today, we'll give an opportunity not only for tax planning, but for an investment analysis as well. That help? Did I lose you? Yep, he's got enough of that stuff. Okay.
But now, doesn't he have certain limitations? If he's in a 401k, he has only a limited option to choose within that. He doesn't have as much control as when they come to you, and you're able to do a lot more magic.
And then depending on your age, if you're age 59 and a half, if you're 59 and a half or older, you can do what's known most times. There's some exceptions to this rule, of course, but most times you can do what's known as an in-service transfer, so that we can move your money from where it's at in the 401k with the limited options that you have, which may also limit our ability to help protect you against the market downturn, into a much more diversified portfolio where we've got, outside of the 401k, there's all kinds of options. Now, this is a tax planning show, so let's talk about taxes with regard to 401ks and IRAs as well. So there's the investment side I just mentioned, where you can do an in-service transfer. However, we need to think too, is there's a possibility that you're going to retire and need to get income from your retirement accounts prior to age 59 and a half. Then we would have to be more careful there, because if we move the money into an IRA,
then you're stuck at a different age.
Now you have a tax penalty if you take money out before age 59 and a half.
Right.
Whereas if we leave it in the 401k, at age 55, once you pass that age, you could access money without that 10% tax penalty. So there's some balancing here. Now, and it could be we determine, well, how much money might you need for the 5 years? And we can utilize a strategy where we may keep some in the 401k for the purpose of taking income until age 59 and a half. And then we can have money in the IRA that we can tap into there. And that's assuming that we don't have other outside monies we can use in lieu of those accounts. Now, there's even more. Okay?
Keep it going, keep it going.
When you come to a 401k and the IRA and tax planning, there's a special thing, special rule, if you will, Internal Revenue Code 72T. Now, this is another planning tool that we can use if someone needs to take income from their 401k or from an IRA for that matter prior to age 59 and a half, and we want to avoid, of course, that tax penalty. Let's say that's already in IRAs and not in the 401k. If it's already in IRAs and we know we got a tax penalty of 59 and a half, we can do what's known as the 72T strategy. Allows us to take income that we can enter 3 different methods: amortization, annuitization, and RMD, required minimum distribution. We look at which one's going to give us the income, meet the income need there. We can trigger that. We can also pick what amount of money. We don't have to use the whole retirement account, for instance. We can choose how much we want to apply for the 72T, just so we're hitting those income numbers. And as long as we take that for 5 years or age 59 and a half, whichever is longer.
And do you have to take that every single month?
No penalty. Right, you have to be substantially equal payments, whether it's annual, quarterly. Normally we're doing monthly, because that's the way most of us, right? You want monthly income,
bills every
you're going to get,
so we have to have it. Okay.
Especially when you're retired, right? You're going to get your Social Security or a pension, or in this situation, money from your
now
retirement
we'll play
account.
devil's advocate a little bit on that.
Sure.
If, okay, I lose my job, I'm 52 years old, I'm thinking I'm not going to be able to get another job, I do the 72T, 2 years later I land a job, what happens to that money?
Excellent question. So I'll give you an example. I had a client many years ago, and she had was utilizing the 72T through a previous advisor that she had. I came in, I was looking at it like, wow, why are you taking this money out of the IRA if you're paying all these taxes and, you know, based on she had a pension income, Social Security, and the rest of it.
Right.
It was creating a tremendous tax burden as far as pushing her into a higher bracket, and she didn't need the money. So it had, in fact, changed. So there's a special provision, again, within 72T that allows us to make a one-time change from the, once you start it, you cannot stop taking the 72T, but we went from, I believe hers was under the annuitization method. We are allowed to switch to the RMD method, which is dramatically lower the amount that she's taken out than the annuitization or amortization method would be. So we could then reduce down the amount she was required to take out for the next 2 or 3 years, I think, to finish out the 5, and then we could do away with it completely, which is what we did.
Cool. I wasn't sure.
So, yep. This is the other part about knowing the rules and how they work and how you can utilize them to your effect. It's so important when you're working with people, you know, like Friday and I work as a team when we're doing tax planning for clients. We'll run things in advance for them so they know, if I do this, this is what's going to happen.
Right.
So when I mentioned the client earlier again today, when we're talking to Friday, it'd be like, okay, if we do 10,000, what happens? If we do 12,000, 15,000, and we're going to find that sweet spot that keeps us with zero tax on that IRA money we're taking out without triggering that Social Security, or if we trigger it, it's maybe a little bit, but to where it will still be zero tax. So as long as it's zero tax, right?
We don't care.
Zero's the hero. That's what counts. So these are the things when it comes to planning. So when I was just going to give you a 10 for the first 10 callers. Can I squeeze it in? For the first 10 callers, there we go, to the office, 615-376-5325. Free retirement income analysis. This includes an investment analysis. You've heard some of the tax strategies. We get even more depth there on your specific situation and how we can save you the most on taxes. Come to that meeting. Guess what? Dr. Friday will be there with us if you like. All right? You can come see me first, and then we can bring her in, or we can meet you together. We'll schedule that to coordinate the time so that you can meet both of us at the same time and get all your questions answered. And not just a consultation to answer questions, but we're actually going to do a plan for you. Okay, so you'll have a specific personalized retirement income plan, comprehensive financial plan for you to help you with your help not just in reducing taxes, but on your investments and many other things we're going to talk about as well. But first, we got to take a break. Okay, so we're going to quick break. When we come back, more tax tips, more ways to put money in your pocket, keep your hard-earned money with you. Join us here. We'll be right back on the Retirement Report.